With these new mods, tourists are finally not useless. Let's dive right in. I'm StratGamer and welcome to a new Anno 1800 mod review, and today we're reviewing one mod called Buff Tourist by HanSolo85. Not the first mod by this mod creator, so thank you Hans from creating them and sharing them with the community. And this is something I think a lot of people may like. Because when the Tourist DLC first came out, a lot of people, including myself, said, whoa, this is great. Like, it's a lot of new gameplay, a lot of new mechanisms. It's not, an hotel is not ugly, the Eiffel Tower is not ugly, it brings a lot of new things. But then we started playing with it for a couple of hours and very quickly realized, okay, this thing is useless to push our cities further. It was sort of, okay, it's a new thing on the side, but it doesn't improve how we were doing things. And by that, basically, I want to take a bit my min-maxer hat and say the space that you need to take to have all those hotels, to have the productions for those hotels, for those restaurants and all of this is useless or is way too big compared to the gains that you would gain from having those tourists, from having those restaurants, or even from having that iron tower. If you don't know really what I'm talking about, don't hesitate to also check a recent video that I made that will appear now at the top, that will also be in the description below if you just want to look at it after it, or just ask me in the comments, if you can't find it. But it's basically a video I made very recently showing how the iron tower wasn't worth it if you had an island full of skyscrapers. Even if you go to skyscrapers, it's still not worth it. So now, what is this mod doing? Well, actually, this mod basically changes the buffs, the bonuses that we will get from the restaurants, the bars, the cafes, as well as the Iron Tower itself, to, let's say, level a bit this equation that I just mentioned, meaning the space that it takes for all of this versus the bonus that you get. And I haven't read on all of the math. It will also depend a lot on what you're trying to do and how your city looks and all those type of things, but it does clearly make a big impact. And I think now, obviously I'm not saying now we need this mod to create a new record, because usually we do records without any mods. But if you are a gamer out there that sort of looked in the past at the tourist and well, that seems like a lot of effort for not a lot of bonuses, I'm gonna skip it. Or maybe you have some in a corner but you never use them. Now with this mod you may be able to actually start using them a lot more and consider playing with them again. What does it actually do? So the first thing is that each of those buildings, the restaurant, the cafe and the bar, now they give you additional bonuses. So if we look at the recipes, right now I have this recipe of the donut foray. It will be the same for all recipes. They still have the reduced consumption that you can see. And maybe let's go into the recipe book. Sorry about that. Taking a minute. So they still have, the typical bonuses you can see here, meaning they will give you, for example, for donut foray, minus 10% consumption of coffee for all the old world residences that are in that range, minus 5 for the chocolate, etc. They do also continue to provide the happiness bonus that we used to have. It's different for each. This one is 3, 1, etc. But now they do provide 2 new bonuses. The first one is bonus residence, which is a really big one, because especially for min-maxers, that's usually the goal. And that's, given that we're taking space to put those buildings, to put hotels, we're losing space where we used to have residents. So sort of balancing that by increasing the residents on all the houses that are in range is very important, very critical. And it does that. You can see +1 residence if you're provided with fish, bread, canned food, university, etc. So depending on the actual tier, it will be a different number, right? It's usually sort of 10% of the base. So if you have, you know, a farmer house with 10, you're gonna get +1 because you have fish, etc., etc. Then the second bonus differs between the different buildings, between the restaurant, the bars, etc. The restaurant, as you can see, I mean, this one is a cafe. So this cafe, as you can see, reduces the chance of fire by 20%, right? You can see it here. So that's also quite useful for min-maxers and other players, right? Because that means you may need less fire stations, etc. Similarly, for the bar, it will be actually the riots. And lastly, for the restaurants, it will be, as I can show you here, the chance of illness also by 20%. So that is the first big change, is each of those buildings now not only gives you consumption reduction, but also bonus residence and reduce risk of either illness, riot, or fire. That's really quite big. Honestly, I really like that. I think this will change everything, because now it definitely makes it worth having those restaurants, etc., in a block of your population. The second thing is the Iron Tower. It used to give you that +10%. Now that all of these are doing this, the Iron Tower also needed a small bonus, let's say. So it continues doing all of the same thing, right? So for example, if you look here, it continues reducing the consumption, continues giving the bonus of more on residents, 10% increase in residents. I would have actually loved to see that buffed actually in this mode a bit more, maybe to 20%, because if you watch my video on is the Iron Tower worth it for skyscrapers, that would make a big difference. Or maybe to change it so that it also impacts the base population of skyscrapers and not just the base population of investors, meaning instead of 5, because 10% of 50, it could be 10% of 350, right, which is the max population of a skyscraper level 5. That will make definitely a big difference. But on top of that, also provides two new things. One is attractiveness +2. There's definitely a lot of houses that can be covered, and if you multiply that by 2, that is at the end quite a bit of attractiveness. But also, if you've seen one of my recent mod reviews, I also shared how, in a sense, useless attractiveness is, right? It doesn't impact that much in anything in the end game. So, and because the Iron Tower is, in a sense, an end game thing. So I don't think the +2 attractiveness is really a big change. If you disagree, don't hesitate to share in the comments below why. I'd love to hear about it. But the other thing is, again, quite interesting, because it reduces fire, illness, and riot by 20%. So if you have that plus the other ones, right, you're at 40% already. So that's quite nice. This one is not united, but this one, for example, this engineer house is in range of those things, right? So it gets the -20 on all those things from the Iron Tower, but also gets it from the cafe and the restaurant, right? So at that point, it starts really becoming interesting, and the space taken by all those huge hotels, and also the production that we need for those hotels, because let's remember, they need strange things like jam and shampoo, and also for their happiness there's a number of things like lemonade. So they need a lot of space, but they start to get worth it. At least that's the way I see it. He also made in this mode a small change, which is that the recipes also affect the scholars. They weren't in the past. That was more of a bug than anything. But yeah, I hope you liked this episode. If you did, don't hesitate to press the like button and share any thoughts that you may have about this mode or others. I'd love to hear about it, and hope to see you next time.